Hi, biology classes. I hope you're having fun with your osmosis egg investigations. I just wanted to take a moment to explain a little bit about what you've done in the investigations as well as go forward into your lab report and help you get that set up, because that's going to be your next big step. So first, like I said, I'd like to go over what has happened so far. And as hopefully you figured out based on the title of the investigation, what we're really looking at here is osmosis. So an egg, as you guys know it, or as you have seen them, whether you know it or not, is a cell. And so here's our egg or our cell. The first day that I had the eggs ready to go for you, they had the shell all taken off, dissolved by vinegar, so that all that was left around the egg was a membrane, just like a cell has a membrane around it. And as you know, the cell's membrane controls what goes in and out of the cell. And again, in this particular example, we're going to be looking at water, how water goes in and out of the membrane. So after you had the vinegar take the shell off of the egg, the next thing you did was you put it in corn syrup. Okay, so we're just going to label that. If you want to write this down and diagram this with me in your notebook, you certainly can. Otherwise, just kind of pay attention to see what was going on here. When it was in corn syrup, what the egg actually did was it lost mass. At least that's what we would expect it to do. I haven't seen your data, but I'm assuming most of you found that after a night in corn syrup, the egg lost mass. So what does that mean? Our egg or our cell had water that moved out. So the water moved out of the cell. Okay, water always moves in osmosis from high concentration to low concentration. So all of the syrup that was all around here, here's the corn syrup around the egg, is very syrupy. It doesn't have a lot of water in it. The inside of the egg was very watery because it had just been soaking in vinegar, which is actually mostly water. Okay, so the water moved from a high concentration of water inside the egg, in other words, there was lots of water inside the egg, to where there was very little water on the outside. Remember, the corn syrup is very sugary, not a whole lot of water. We have names for those conditions. Remember, in osmosis, an area where there's a lot of water, but low amounts of stuff dissolved in the water, is called hypotonic. So I'm just going to put an O there for hypotonic. And an area where there is very little water, but has lots of solutes, in other words, lots of sugar, for example, dissolved in it, is hypertonic. So I'm just going to put an E there for hypertonic. All right, so water always moves from where it's high in concentration, or hypotonic. You want to remember the O for H2O, where there's lots of water, you can do that, to where it's hypertonic, or where there's not as much water. And again, because the water moved out of the egg, it lost mass. So that's how we're actually measuring the osmosis, is by seeing what's going on with the mass. So that was our day in corn syrup. The next day, you covered the egg in water for the overnight period. So let's look at what happened there. So again, here's our egg. Okay, covered in water overnight. Okay, so in other words, there was lots of water on the outside. Color that in. Okay, pure water obviously has lots of water in it. And I think the result you should have gotten, for the most part, is that the egg gained mass. Okay. So the egg got heavier. What does that mean? That means our water from the outside, where there was lots of water, moved into the egg. Okay, so there's our principle of osmosis again. Water will always move from where it's greater in concentration to where it's lower in concentration, from where there's more water to where there's less water. Again, we can put our words on that, right? The definitions. Water is in high amounts, which means stuff dissolved in the water is in low amounts, or the solutes are in low amounts. So this area out here was hypotonic, O for hypotonic. And this time the egg itself was hypertonic. So E for hypertonic. Again, water always moves from where it's hypotonic to hypertonic. Since water moved into the egg in this case, your egg should have gained mass. All right, so this was intended to kind of give you the background information on how water can move back and forth through that eggshell. Not really the shell, but the membrane. So now we get to your individual experiment. So I'm going to erase this and go to your lab report.